Good morning. Welcome to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, on this 15th day of February, and it's a Tuesday. Welcome to all our viewers and subscribers of Cignal TV, and of course to all of those viewers who catch us on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you also to PLDT for their home fiber optic internet provision here on the program. And thank you to one of our viewers, my friend Wilson, who said, "Wag kang masyadong malikot." Actually, Wilson, it's the table. We are using a temporary setup because my computer decided to conk out 2 weeks after the warranty expired. Anyway, that is life. I do hope that you are all okay, enjoyed, and financially survived Valentine's Day. I hope that none of you spent money excessively and made commitments or took actions that would be regrettable in the coming months. Okay, alam niyo naman po ibig ko sabihin. But let's get on with the program. We have two guests for today on two separate topics. The first one will be on ease of doing business and what is really needed to get business people to invest in the Philippine economy, both local and foreign, because there are a lot of talks, a lot of people saying, oh, we need this, we need that, but I have not really heard a person who is in business being asked the same question. So today, we will do just that. After our interview with this renowned and respected businessman, we will go to a fellow journalist to talk about the controversy that is brewing in the Bureau of Customs. You may have heard there's a new commissioner, and everybody didn't think much of it the initial few days. But now things are popping up like worm in the woodwork, and clearly some people are not happy about the new customs commissioner, who apparently is very controversial. Okay, but before that, let's go to the post-Valentine Daily Starter, which comes from Evelyn Ginsberg. The secret to a happy marriage: sometimes it really helps to be a little deaf. When an unkind word is spoken, you tune out. Kumbaga, magbingi-bingihan na lang paminsan-minsan. Don't let it affect you. Don't keep score. And just, sabi nga ng Pilipino, in one ear, out the other. Okay, so let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star. A bit of serious news here that all of us need to pay attention to. The headline goes, Marcos summons Chinese envoy. Beijing blames Philippines for laser incident. President Bongbong Marcos has summoned the Chinese ambassador to Malacanang to explain or to express their serious concern. I quote, okay, President Marcos summoned China's ambassador yesterday to relay his serious concern over the actions of a Chinese ship against the Philippine Coast Guard and Filipino fishermen in the West Philippine Sea. The reported incident was last February 6, where a Chinese Coast Guard ship beamed a military-grade laser light on a Philippine Coast Guard vessel, BRP Malapascua, which was then assisting in the delivery of provisions to the Philippine military outpost on Ayungin Shoal. Okay. However, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Wenbin blamed the Philippines for the incident, saying the Chinese Coast Guard's action was in accordance with China's domestic law and international law as the Philippine vessel intruded in the area without permission. I call this serious news because no less than former Supreme Court Justice Antonio Carpio said that the Chinese Coast Guard using a military-grade laser is tantamount to an attack, okay? An attack of a Philippine ship. So this is serious concern and can be grounds to call in the United States on their commitment to our mutual defense treaty. So yan po, medyo seryoso po yan. Mag-ingat po tayo, pagdasalan natin yan. Okay, senators meanwhile, headed by Mig Subiri, has declared that Chacha not really in our agenda. Okay, Subiri also pointed out that during the consultations with Malacanang, the charter change was never in the list of priorities of Malacanang. That big photo at the front page at the top of the Philippine Star is a photo of nuns and students of St. Scholastica's College in Manila as they take part in the 1 billion rising movement. It is a movement that celebrates and pushes for the end of violence against women. Okay, so yan po, no? Dami niyan, and they are now rising to bring the message all over the world. DOH, in the meantime, eyes COVID alert level 0. Okay, the Department of Health has entertained the possibility of adopting an alert level 0 in the country's existing alert level system for its COVID-19 response, given the improvement, the much improved state of affairs. Okay, still related to Valentine's, relationships, etc. The Radio Veritas group did a latest Veritas Truth Survey, and they arrived at the conclusion that many couples shun sacrament of marriage over extravagant church weddings, according to the survey. They interviewed many couples, and the number one or the top reason is that namamahalan or people don't decide not to get married. They just live together or are partners because many Filipinos are poor and can't afford the expenses. Not to mention the complications involved in getting permits, licenses, registrations. Okay, now the center of the page, we have Senator Amy Marcos surprising Senator Grace Poe with a garland and bouquet of vegetables, onions, and garlics from the Ilocos region for Valentine's Day. Okay, so medyo, sana, hindi na masyadong glamorosa yan. Kasi mura na ulit ang sibuyas. Yung bawang mahal pa rin yan. Senate okays Blue Ribbon Report on DepEd laptop. The Senate Blue Ribbon, headed by Senator Tolentino, has finally submitted or okayed their final report and said that legal charges should be filed against high-ranking DepEd officials for graft and corruption. Meanwhile, 5,980 public buildings to undergo quake integrity assessment. This is clearly as a result of the major earthquake that happened in Turkey and Syria, and the fact that the Philippines is susceptible to earthquakes, especially dyan sa Davao area, Davao province, and some parts of Batangas. And now the DPWH told the Senate yesterday that they will be doing the integrity assessment kung bibigay ba yung mga building na yan. Okay, last two pieces of news. Photo from the Philippine Coast Guard personnel posed for a group photo before distributing roses to commuters at the Light Rail Transit Line 2 station in Antipolo, Rizal. Okay, magaling silang pumi-R. Natatanong no iba, di ba Coast Guard sila? Ba't nandun sila sa bundok? Okay, last piece, SWS, 75% of Pinoys satisfied with BBM. So that's all the news we have on the front page. And if you would, and if you wish, please go buy a copy of the Philippine Star at the corner at the tricycle stand near you, or go online and subscribe to the Philippine Star. And of course, you can read my column, yours truly, under Cito, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Okay, let's now go to our first topic, and it has to do with ease of doing business. But actually, the question is, what do we have to do? The Philippine government and the Filipinos, what do we have to do in order to get businesses off the ground and more business people and companies to invest in the Philippine economy? Please roll out the intro video, Gabriel, so people will once again refresh their memory about our regular guest here on Agenda.
Go Negosyo founder Joey Concepcion is concurrently serving as the job sector lead of the Private Sector Advisory Council. He is also the former presidential advisor for entrepreneurship under the Duterte administration.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Joey Concepcion. Thank you for joining us again.
Good morning, Cito.
Okay, I think you heard my intro earlier, Joey. Everybody talks about what is needed to attract investors in the Philippines. Everybody talks about what has to be done, blah, blah, blah. But I've never heard them ask the businessman. I've never heard them actually ask investors per se what should be done, and you're one of the most visible businessmen in the country. Could you fill in the blanks, please?
Well, I think since the president got elected, you could see that he has been traveling and visiting heads of states, and the private sector travels with him at our own expense. And it has been very effective. No, it's like, if I take my company public, I have to go out and meet investors for them to invest in my country. You cannot do that over the phone. So it's paying off. People have to see who is President Marcos. They know his father. Now, what is his son's vision? And I have to say that the private sector is very pleased with his statements, very precise, straightforward, and very clear. No? The idea really is that the Philippines needs more investors in our country. For our country to continue to grow, we need more people to play in our economy, tying up either with big companies or even working with small companies. And that is the effort that our president has been doing. The last trip was in Tokyo. That was extremely successful. And the Japanese and the Filipinos have that natural warmth with each other. I mean, we all hit it well with the Japanese, and of course, Filipinos love Japanese food. So, and they love our beaches as well. So it's complementary. Now, there was about 35 agreements that were signed, and I've also expressed to the Japanese sector that for us to grow, we have to have small and medium enterprises much more than our micro. Currently, out of the whole negosyo community, 99% of our negosyantes are micro. If you go to Japan, there is no micro. There is only small and medium and large. So, and that is where the challenge is. Our micros have to elevate themselves to small and medium enterprises so that the country can grow faster. And jobs are generated by our MSMEs. Close to 85% of the current jobs in this country come from the MSMEs. No?
Okay, but Joey, allow me to just cut in there. The question is, and I really appreciate the fact that you're an optimist. You highlight the positive. You always put in front all the things that are working for us. But, you know, that's what happens when you are in the tribal council, so to speak, when you get to speak with the chieftains, when you are able to talk to the president, etc. But down on the ground, as a journalist, I just keep receiving all of these documents, complaints, etc., about local government units putting up so many fees, fines, requirements, and the issue of ease of doing business. In fact, a few months ago, last year, actually, the ARTA, which you guys have supported, went to rough sailing. Now, what about the reality on the ground? What needs to change? Because people are saying, yeah, you can talk to the president and he'll promise you heaven and earth. But the minute a businessman comes in, or even local businessmen, they say, you know, it's not that easy to do business in the Philippines.
You know, my own experience, Cito, as you know, we have these huge mentoring events that happen every weekend, no?
Yeah.
And close to 1,000, 2,000. In all of those, I've mentored almost every time that we create that event. I have never heard a complaint of an entrepreneur having a hard time, no? Where they're having a hard time is really trying to scale up their business, trying to source funding. But the government, we work with DTI and DA, they made it easier for people to open a business. No, there's not much issues on that side. The issues really rely on scaling up. The challenge that many of these micro, I'm not so concerned about the medium, they're fine, but the micro especially, how to scale them up. Now, with all of these challenges, they need guidance. And I could share with you so many stories, no, of their struggle and how we are able to help them. It's basically a matter of connecting them to the right people, whether it's government that will need to support them or whether it's the private sector ourselves, linking them to our value chain. No? That's the only way that our micro entrepreneurs can really prosper. They have to link with medium and large businesses, and that's what we're trying to do.
Is that is that caused also by the supply chain problem where we are dependent so much on viajeros, on so many levels of profiteers or middlemen, etc.? I mean, how do you cut all of this out so that the micro businessman actually gets direct to the customers?
If you notice, many of our micro entrepreneurs are sari-sari stores and carinderias. No? They're all over the place. So we are in the food business. So what is essential here is how do we get our what we ever produce down to the sari-sari store at the lowest cost possible for them to be able to have better margins. No? And that is very important. With digitalization right now, there are many apps, whether it's SM, Merrimart, etc. All of these supermarkets have created a digital marketplace for the sari-sari stores to order online at the same cost. And now you've got SM, Pure Gold, Merrimart, many others out there being able to link with the sari-sari stores so that they avoid the middlemen. No? I mean, of course, there are still middlemen because they perform a role, but directly as producers selling to the big supermarkets, then give it directly to the sari-sari store. So that access has been created digitally to the many platforms that these retailers have set up. No? And the beneficiary thereof there are the sari-sari stores and the carinderias. No?
Okay, what about multiple taxes and then added onto that are these carrying costs or fees, charges, inspection charges, especially, as you know, I'm very much connected with the agriculture producers. And they're all saying, okay, di-deliver kami ng CCO. Bago ka makadeliver sa barangay, magbabayad ka. And then you have inspection fees, and you have this, and you have that, and so many carrying costs. And of course, at the end of the day, it's the consumer that pays for it, but it just makes business a lot tougher for producers on the ground.
Well, depending on the sector, there may be fees because you're dealing with, fresh produce, live animals, etc., and especially movement of whether it's hogs or whatever. They're avoiding all of these diseases, etc. No, but that to me is not a problem that I see with our MSMEs at all. Clearly not. The problem I see is that really getting them to scale up, providing them access to capital, no? And that's very important. Remember, in this pandemic, many of them got affected. So they had to recapitalize, but not all of them have the assets to be able to secure those loans. No?
Okay,
So,
if I follow your trend or your path, okay, then it means that these small businesses need more capital. Why can't they get the capital?
well, there are two types of small businesses. In the micro level, you've got a very big group, which are the micro farmers. No? And of course, banks are more careful in lending in this sector because, agri is subject to weather, many typhoons, or so the risk is much higher in agri. But and that is why that we hope to launch Kalab, which is the Kapilit Angat Lahat program pretty soon, because they have to link up with a big brother. Like for example, Winston Oy of Universal Leaf Tobacco. You've got this guy from Palawan, no? Christian Moller, who's in coconuts. And so these are examples of big brothers that we are now working on the plan, hopefully launching it soon, so that they can bring in more of these micro farmers who are either in coconut or tobacco, or we're looking at 5 crops that we'd like to focus first. No? And this sector will have a mentor, which is the big brother, who will have access to capital because the big brothers will buy the products from them. No? So it's similar to contract growing, actually. That's the format. No? So we need more of this to be able to scale up our micro farmers. That's a sector that is actually the most challenging.
I hope you don't mind my saying this, Joey, but that system, while it sounds good, won't it simply end up making the rich richer, bigger, because you've always dedicated your life, and it's been your passion to scale up the micro, but in that kind of a big brother arrangement and contract growing, it's the big boys who always go home with most of the earnings.
No, but here it's different. We are really checking all the big brothers on their current model. Does it give a fair share to the micro farmers? And yes, not everybody is in that level, and that's why I've hired Secretary Dar to help the private sector here. We are working not only with the big brothers, but we're working with the LGUs. No? A typical example is Mayor Eddie Guillen of Ilocos Norte in Pidig. And he works with Winston Oy with Universal Leaf. And you can see that the farmers are doing very well. You can see the model of Winston. One day I'll invite you and show you what the concept is. It's already being done, but we have to just encourage the big brothers to open up more and embrace this.
You're clearly sold on the idea. Why isn't the national government taking over it or running with it?
It is really joint efforts, and Secretary Abalos is part of this. And key here is the right LGU leadership to work with the private sector. And you've seen it when the LGU leadership, in the case of Ilocos, Pidig in Ilocos Norte, Mayor Eddie Guillen, who's now NIA administrator, has done a great job. You can see that the lives of these tobacco farmers have prospered. And Winston Oy, you know him, he is not all for himself. He really wants to share the wealth. So we are really very choosy on who are these people that we would like in the program. And that's the only way that this country can move forward. The government can't run a business. That's not in their gene to do that. It's not their purpose. They are just supposed to make things easier for the business sector now to run well. And that's why LG leadership in this model is, to me, very critical, because if you don't have a local government good partner on the ground, helping you access the farmers that are really qualified and hardworking, then it won't work. No.
Okay, but you only have few players, few good men and women under your umbrella that can actually afford to roll out the business, capitalize the operations, and share the profits with the small players. But that's just a drop in the bucket. How do you scale this up to match with your vision for micro businesses to scale up? Because we have Land Bank, we have DBP, and everyone's talking Maharlika and forgetting that hey, wait a minute, those banks were put up to assist farmers and develop business. Why are we going to redirect it to the Maharlika Investment Fund?
Yeah, well, that's a different story. And
but my question is, should we get the Land Bank and the DBP to refocus, ask Congress or your friends in Malacanang to, hey, can we just, get these institutions to, rechannel or find their original purpose?
Definitely, Land Bank DBP will be a very big support, and we have started meetings with them. But the model here, basically a Christian model, and maybe one day you should invite him to your show, is using carbon credits. You plant all these coconut trees, and the more you plant, and you get all of these credits, carbon credits, which balances and the environment, and there are financial opportunities there that will help the business model work much better. So there are many ideas that I've discovered. I'm not actually an agri man, but I'm one that can see where the problem of this country is, and bulk of our micro entrepreneurs are farmers. So yes, you have those big brothers who take all the profit, but you also have big brothers who share it. And those that have been really successful are those who have shared more. And that is where we're pushing. That's why we are selective in how we will approach this. And hopefully others will follow. If you're a small farmer, how can you compete in the world? You really have to group together in cooperatives, and these cooperatives have to work with the big integrators out there. And hopefully the integrators will give a fair price for everything, and that's the objective. Without mentorship and without access to market, agri will have a hard time.
Yeah, well, I agree with you 100%. Now, returning the point to the original question, what can be done, what should be done, or what still needs to be done to improve the investment environment or startup of businesses, whether foreign or local, as far as Joey Concepcion is concerned? Because, it's not a perfect situation. I'm sure you have a few things that you yourself have on a wish list.
Cito, I am shocked. In every event that we do on a weekend, there are thousands of people who make pila. We can't even accommodate. We only have sometimes 100, 150 mentors, and we all get tired by the end of the day. So you can see the enthusiasm of our people who are in business, who want to learn, who want to survive. And there are countless of stories. Everybody has their own story to say, and everybody has a problem. But this is the start. When you start mentoring, and I was mentored my father, and look where I am today. And I'm similar in your case. You're in the same sector that your father was. And these people have not been mentored because maybe their parents were working overseas, so they were left alone. So the key factor in many of the successful entrepreneurs that I see is they have been mentored by their parents and their peers. Now, we are bring that. The power of mentorship is immense. People who are willing to give up in the mentoring event, they one-on-one. Some I do basically one-on-four, and you can just give them some good ideas, and they get it. No? So that's where the challenge we face, no? The lack of mentorship, which we are now pushing very hard in almost every weekend. And if there was nobody really interested in it, that place is going to be empty. So,
What,
but
what,
it's
what
not.
about what about institutionalizing that, Joey? Because I remember several decades ago, back in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, there was the TLRC, the Technology Livelihood Resource Center. You go there, you could get training for just about any product you could imagine, from agri to technology, etc. What about institutionalizing all of this stuff that you guys have been doing? Because I know you, ladies and gentlemen, if there's anything we should recognize Joey Concepcion for, is for his dedication to teach people and to share knowledge. Now, what about a book? What about I haven't been with you for quite some time, but videos, etc., or putting it in the curriculum, or making it an official course? Because Joey, the Filipinos were never trained, Filipinos, not Filipino Chinese, were never trained on how to handle money.
Yes, I think that's important. But see, currently the government is working with the private sector. For example, in our case, we have competitive mentoring programs with DTI and with the Department of Agriculture. And that is, I think, a couple of thousands already have graduated from those programs. That's done online because of the pandemic, and will continue to be online. We use the different negotiation centers of DTI to really link up with the MSMEs. And the Department of Trade and Industry, ever since, I guess, when Mon was with me, joined DTI, and today Secretary Pascual also has embraced Go Negocios philosophy. He knows what it is, and he is very supportive. So that support is already existing in seminars that is ongoing. No? And the private sector is the one that brings in the mentors. Now, on top of that, we have all of these events that happen all over the different shopping centers and malls, because that's where people go. So access to mentorship is very important. Yeah, I mean, definitely, this is not going to be a problem that you solve overnight. At the level of poverty in this country is quite challenging. And for as long as we have 99% of our business community that large, that shows you that there are challenges. So unless these micro entrepreneurs, that percentage goes down and the percentage for small and medium go higher, then you can see we're moving towards Japan's structure. Because in Japan, there are really no micro entrepreneurs. They have really small and medium and huge companies. No? So
Okay,
that's where we have to move.
Yeah, so point taken. Clearly, we need to educate Filipinos. We need to mentor entrepreneurs, and we need to capacitate them as far as the government side is concerned, in terms of capital. Anyway, thank you for all your inputs this morning, Joey, and congratulations and compliments to your dedication, your devotion to this activity, and may your tribe prosper. God bless you.
Thank you, Cito.
Okay, that's Mr. Joey Concepcion, and he is the number one guy in the country as far as mentoring beginners, entrepreneurs, those people who just want to get into into business. Okay, we'll go for a quick break. When we return, we will address this issue, controversy that is now brewing concerning the Bureau of Customs Chief Rubio. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Okay, as I mentioned earlier in the program, our second topic for today concerns the Bureau of Customs and the newly appointed Chief Bienvenido Rubio, who is now the Customs Commissioner, and who, according to the news reports, was one of several alleged bagmen or collectors named by Senator Panfilo Ping Lacson in a 2017 privilege speech that assailed massive corruption in the Bureau. In Lacson's list, Rubio, who is said to be with the Intellectual Property Rights Division of the BOC back then, was among several dozens of men and women who were identified by the senator as collectors of tara or bribe money from smugglers. Okay, so this issue has started to pick up, and information and conversations are going on, and apparently it has even backfired on Malacanang. And let's now go to our next guest to help us dissect the situation that has the potential of exploding in the face of the president. Roll out the Betamax, Gabriel.
Bienvenido Oplas is a columnist at BusinessWorld. He is also the president of the Minimal Government Thinkers, a free market think tank in Manila.
Okay, Nonoy, welcome to the program. Welcome back.
Good morning, Cito. Good morning sa ating mga tagapakinig. Yeah.
Okay, you already heard the introduction on the topic this morning, and mukhang napapag-usapan na ng mga columnist and of course Bureau of Customs insider itong nagiging controversy at the Bureau of Customs. What have you picked up on your side?
Yes, nabasa ko ngayong sa story sa Tribune Cito, no, pagkatapos nabasa ko rin yung story sa GMA saka sa BusinessWorld about and also the endorsement by Secretary Benjok, no, DOF Secretary Benjok, no, in supporting my tokayo, Bienvenido Rubio. But Cito, can I talk first before about the Bureau of Customs first before the new commissioner?
Mm-hmm.
Kasi yung Bureau of Customs, medyo maganda ang record niya. Yung collection niya, average pang 2018, 2019 was about 600 to 600. Ang 2021, 643 billion pesos ang collection. Mm-hmm. Pagdating ng 2022, ang target niya is 721 billion. Ang collection niya 863 billion pesos. Almost 200 billion increase in revenue sa Bureau of Customs in just 1 year. Mm-hmm. So I think that the leadership, you know, the previous as well as the overall performance of the
this was under the leadership of which commissioner?
The second half is Yogi Ruiz, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was acting Bureau of Customs from July 2022 until January 2023. Mm-hmm. So yung second half was to a certain extent you can give credit to the former Commissioner Yogi Ruiz, no?
Okay.
Ang laki, from 643 billion pesos to 862 billion pesos. At it never happened before na ganun kalaki in just a single year.
Not to mention the fact that we are just only recovering from the pandemic. Yes. So, you know, given that consideration, it would, dapat parang ano lang, like before or the usual. But this one, you're saying 1 billion additional income.
200 billion additional.
200 billion, sorry, 200 billion.
Oh, ang laki. So, yung ngayon, ang nilagay ngayon ni Secretary Benjok, no, target, which to be implemented by new Commissioner Rubio, is 901 billion. From 863 billion to 901 billion. So actually maliit yung expectation sa kanya. And I think that the bigger challenge for him now is to breach 1 trillion peso, and I think it is doable because if we are able to increase customs alone collection by 200 billion in from 2020 and 2022, and I think it is highly possible to increase the revenue by at least 140 billion from 2022 to 2023. So ngayon ang nakalagay sa kaya yun ang main background, no, kasi another background dito, ang laki-laki ng utang natin. Ang previous na utang natin was about 800 billion a year. Pagdating ng 2020, ang new borrowings are 2.5 trillion in 2020, 2.2 trillion in 2021, and last year about 2.1 trillion pesos. So, ang laki ng utang, kailangan ng revenues. Alangan naman nadagdagan ng taxes ng gobyerno, mga tao, pangit yun. Kundi, kung to collect what does exist, what should be collected through better tax administration. Dan ang laking papel ng Bureau of Customs. Dan napapasok ngayon si Commissioner Rubio.
Okay, but let's sort this thing out, okay? First, Yogi, ano na yung family name niya? Ruiz, okay, kasi narilito na ako yung Ruiz and Rubio, eh. Okay, so, okay, Yogi Ruiz, you're saying that during his almost 1 year, kasi a few months na lang, 1 year na sana siya, they had a record-breaking accomplishment in collection.
Yes.
Now, was there any reason to replace him aside from political?
I cannot comment on because that is a dynamic within Malacanang, no. Pero ang appointment kasi kay Yogi is acting commissioner.
Yeah.
So hindi ko alam kung kailangan niyang dumaan sa bureau sa commission on appointment. I think the fact na hindi siya pinadaan doon, talagang I think it's already clear from the start he is not a permanent or 6 years customs commissioner. Kaya siguro ang kagandahan din naman niya na within 6 months of performance ay talagang nagpakita siya ng gilas, no? Yeah,
but Yogi Ruiz is a career customs officer, di ba? Hindi siya political appointee.
Well, all appointments in government are political appointees, from cabinet secretary to undersecretary.
Yeah, but I mean, sa customs, there are career employees and officials, and there are appointees. Normally, yung commissioner is an appointee, but in the case of Ruiz, hindi ba parang he's been there for so many years or if not decades? Am I correct?
Yes, yeah. And also the same kay I think Ruiz used to be with PDEA before. I think that's what I read, no? Tapos napunta siya ng Bureau of Customs. So, si Rubio naman ay dati na siya sa Bureau of Customs at a lower rank. Tapos yun na lang yung question sa kanya, yung katulad nung nasa report ng Tribune that for Senator Ping Lacson has tagged him as one of the bagmen. Ibig sabihin, among the mga collectors, among the big corrupt officials of the Bureau of Customs. Ito nakakatawa siya because I myself, I'm curious about the man. So I asked many of my friends, na kaibigan ko sa UP, different chat groups, numbering hundreds of people. I also asked at least to my retired military friends, tanong, may idea ba kayo tungkol kay Commissioner Rubio? Alam mo ang findings ko, walang sumagot. Pati yung isang military, sorry no, hindi ko siya kilala. I think that the message here is that the man is relatively unknown. So if he's a bad guy, so I think if he's a guy that means he is not a notoriously bad guy. Otherwise, lumutang yung pangalan niya. Now, if he's a good guy, that might be a good opportunity for him kasi wala siyang gaanong political and moral corruption bagay. So I think he's to a good start. And the fact that
he was already targeted or called out by Senator Lacson in a privileged speech in 2017, kind of, disrupts the flow. Because from what I understand, even the president, and I will quote the words of a source close to Malacanang, the president was blindsided. Kumbaga, pinapirmahan daw yung appointment kay president, which he signed based on trust and confidence with a very close advisor, etc., or supporter, only to be told later on that this guy, Rubio, was targeted by Ping Lacson. And did you hear of any cases at the ombudsman? Because that is what we're still trying to verify, because another source said, boss, check mo sa ombudsman. Have you picked up anything on that?
So far wala pa naman Cito, no. So doon sa kinuwento mo, pagdating niya sa commission appointment, doon sa duduguin, no. So he will have to defend himself of those various accusations against him. Mabuti naman kasi pag dumaan yan sa commission appointment, mauungkat naman lahat yun eh.
Now, are you sure that he has to go through the commission on appointments? Because
I think the BIR commissioner and the Bureau of Customs commissioner also went. Kasi di ba yung si Paeldon dati nung dumaan sila sa Senado.
Yeah. Okay, now
not sa Cito, lalabas yun sa mga Senate investigation.
Okay, so as far as Rubio is concerned, hindi siya masyadong kilala, and whatever he is known for is quite controversial, because kahapon nga daming nagpapadala ng mga file. Sabi ko, teka, that's not fair. I still need to learn more about this person. But how does this thing impact economy, operations, etc.? Because I wrote in my column today that the Bureau of Customs is always a favorite target of people who are corrupt, who want to make money, etc. Now, you are a far more knowledgeable veteran than I am. Sinabi ko lang doon na from what I remember in the past, I know of one or two senators who made sure one of their people was in customs for the TARA. I know of certain religious groups, not just one, but many religious groups who wanted in the customs. And in fact, I know one who even confessed to me na nakakuha siya ng trabaho sa customs, and his only job is collecting the monthly quota or stipend from businesses that deal with the custom, and deliver the money to his boss, who was an official of the Bureau of Customs.
Diyan papasok Cito yung smuggling, kasi yun nga yung nung order ni Secretary Binjok, no, 4 yung challenge kay sa new commissioner, no. One is revenue mobilization. Yun nga yung target na 901 billion target for 2023, which I think should be made 1 trillion pesos. Pangalawa, smuggling. Ang estimate ni Just Aranza ng Federation of Philippine Industries, 250 billion pesos a year total smuggling. So, cigarette smuggling, oil smuggling, rice smuggling, 250 billion. Out of that, 25 billion from cigarette smuggling alone. Yung estimate naman ni Congressman Joey Salceda, 30 billion pesos a year. Kay Coco Nograles, 31 billion a year. Ako, ang sarili kong study doon, ang lumalabas mga 36 to 49 billion pesos a year. Cigarette smuggling alone. So, ganun kalaki. So, yung ginawa ng DBM sa kanang Secretary Mina Pangandaman, they allotted 3 billion pesos for both BIR and BOC to digitalize, no? Kasi yun nga, yung 4 na challenge, revenue mobilization, pangalawa carb smuggling, third is trade facilitation, and fourth yung to improve the morale, kasi nga pag sinabi Bureau of Customs, cost yan, no? Matakaw yan. So, they need to... Pero pag nagawa yung tatlo, yung to raise revenues and to curb smuggling, tapos to trade facilitation, I think that there will be corresponding increase in the morale of the BOC people.
Do you think this is just an issue of corruption? Because if you remember, Nonoy, during the last administration, the last 2 years, 2022, 2021, several officials and personnel of the Bureau of Customs, I think Port of Manila yata sila, were killed. They were actually murdered, and it left a big question mark who and why these killings were happening. Who's killing them and why were they killing the BOC people? So clearly pera-pera ang pinag-aawayan dito dahil maraming, I think there were about 3 or 4 of them who were killed in 1 year, if not a year and a half.
So parang gangwar. Parang siguro yung isang grupo, ba't mo pinapasok yung smuggle namin tapos yung kabila pinapasok mo? Siguro yung mga nagagalit. Kasi yun ang ano doon. Kasi ang bottom line talaga dito, it's really to curb smuggling. And I think that 250 billion pesos estimate by Mr. Just Aranza might even be understated. It might go up to 300 billion pesos. Kasi ang yun nga, yung sa cigarette smuggling alone is about 30 to 40 billion a year. Tapos ang oil smuggling up to 50 billion a year. Iba pa yung car smuggling.
But Nonoy, that means may mga protector kasi we tend to focus on Bureau of Customs. I remember I wrote a series of articles in my column where I exposed the Ferrari smugglers. And then some people in the auto industry supplied me with information, and hindi lang pala Ferrari, pati mga Porsche, ini-smuggle na, competing with the legitimate distributors in Metro Manila. And then the BOC contacts personnel actually admitted to me that they were chasing after 86 Ferraris missing. And when I did more snooping, mukhang may mga backer na yung mga smuggler na yon. In fact, someone would tip them off because all the Ferraris in all the showrooms that were suspected disappeared. Pati na yung mga Porsche, biglang hindi na dinidisplay. Ngayon, naglalabasan na naman. So, there are backers. And what do your contacts say regarding who's behind all of this?
Medyo mahirap mag-speculate ng pangalan sa sito, pero it's really highly possible yung kasi Bureau of Customs are just nilagay lang, may mga backer doon yung halimbawa hindi ka basta-basta maging director kung hindi ka na-recommenda ni congressman o senador o someone high up there in Malacanang, no? So tingin ko may kanya-kanya silang ano doon kaya nga ang lalabas na diyan turf war or parang sort of mini gang war within the Bureau of Customs. Pero lahat yun, yung mga patayan na saka yung girian na yan, may mga backer. So I think that it might be a battle between the less greedy versus the horribly greedy backers among them. Kasi yun nga, ang laki talaga na. Kaya nga yung babalik tayo doon sa utang na 2.5 na so for the past 3 years, 2020, 2021, 2022, lumalabas na about 6.7 trillion pesos increase on top of 8.2 trillion as of 2019. So ang question talaga ito, revenue. So if the Bureau of Customs should be a big part of that. Kaya ang kwan talaga dito, ang salin dito kay President BBM sa kay Secretary Binjokno ay pukpukin the new Customs Commissioner, raise the revenue, curb smuggling, and digitalize and simplify things. We just want to get the revenues based on existing regulations without raising taxes on everyone. Kasi pagod na nga yung mga tao. Katulad nung nabanggit nyo ni Joey Concepcion earlier, yung taxation is a big issue in dealing business, in doing business. So kung pwede, magnegosyo sila, walang additional taxes, increase lang yung better tax administration. Kaya yung big challenge kay Commissioner. So naintindihan ko naman na maraming bibira, pero I think that now nandyan na siya at na-endorse siya ni Secretary Binjok noon, na-endorse siya ni Presidente BBM, siguro bigyan siya siguro a few months tapos ipakita niya kasi may mga indicators dito like for instance yung January 2023 collection was about 68 billion pesos versus 68 billion pesos versus 56 billion pesos in January 2022. So may ano na tayo, may basya na tayo na maganda yung performance ni Yogi. Ngayon malaking perso yun. Ngayon kung sino man yung mga corrupt people and shady people behind Commissioner Rubio, kaya pakita na by February kailangan ipakita mo na yung collection mo is at least 10 or 15 billion pesos higher than February 2022.
But can you do that? He hasn't even been approved or passed by the commission on appointments. And then, given this situation na may mga pumuputok na issue against him, what is the likelihood that his nomination and appointment can be withdrawn? Because medyo nangyayari to regularly with the Marcos administration. Parang napapaso sila sa isang appointment, ay teka, take him out, palitan ninyo yan. Can Yogi Ruiz go back and continue with the good job that he's doing?
For now, I think that nandyan na yung appointment and there was already explicit announcement by Secretary Bediocno and the President. I think that that likelihood is a little bit low now. So, ang mangyayari, kung nabigyan ng 6 months, 7 months si former Commissioner Yogi Ruiz, I think at least maybe for a few months andyan si Rubio. Pagdating na din sa Senado, kasi lalabas naman yan sa mga investigation. Pag napapasok ngayon yung Malacanang, baka there is a possibility that they might pull out his nomination at saka palitan sa ng panibago.
Because I mean, like, there were other nominees in other cabinet positions, even in cabinet position, and which is Erwin Tulfo. Si Erwin na-pull out because of a technicality on citizenship. And talagang parang ayaw siyang palampasin ng SAM Commission on Appointment members. But in the case of Rubio, with this controversy hovering over his head, what are the chances? Malamang at malamang na ma-withdraw yung appointment niya.
Yeah, in the short term, I think malabo, maliit yung chance na ma-withdraw. Maybe say the next 2 months, say February, March, medyo malabo yung chance. Maybe by April, kasi sasabog kasi iyon pag ngayon na-survey ko sa news report, sa BusinessWorld, sa Tribune, sa GMA, sa Rappler, etc. So parang negative reporting pa lang galing pa lang sa Tribune. So pag lumabas na yung mga negative reporting in many other newspapers, doon mararamdaman na ng Malacanang ang init or the political heat of the appointment of Commissioner Rubio. But for now, the political heat is not yet there, except
Well, we gotta go, Nonoy. Medyo very interesting yung conversation natin, but I am certain this is going to get hotter before the week ends. Okay, thank you, Noy.
Salamat, Cito. Salamat.
Okay, that's Nonoy Oplas of BusinessWorld, a regular here on the program. And let's now go to the closing exhortation of agenda for the week. We exhort you to pray for breakthroughs, for salvation, reconciliation, healing, provision, and direction. Pray that this year, 2023, you would have faith to see God do the impossible in your life, in your family and community, in your church, nation, and the world. Thank you for joining us this morning here on Agenda. Please keep it here on One News.